Thank you. All right, we will go to staff reports 2.01, school presentations. Dr. Bergen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to be with all of you again. It's been our custom for the last several board meeting cycles. We're pleased to bring several more principals forward tonight to share with the board and the community their strategic work and the successes of their school. So sitting to my left and opposite of you, please join me in welcoming tonight Mrs. Krista Moore, principal of Otter River Elementary School, and beside her, Dr. Joel Avey, principal of New London Academy.
Good evening, school board members. I'm Krista Moore, principal of Otter River Elementary School, located in Goode, Virginia. This is my 24th year working for Bedford County Schools, my 14th year as administrator, and my 3rd year as principal at Otter River Elementary. I'd like to tell you a little about our school. Otter River Elementary was initially founded in 1959 during the era of segregation in our country. The school initially served our African American families in our area. So this year marks our 64th year of educating, equipping, and supporting children in the Goode community. During this 2023-24 school year, we serve 174 students in preschool through 5th grade. We're considered to be in the Jefferson Forest Zone, but we actually feed into both Forest Middle and Liberty Middle schools. The mission of Otter River Elementary School is to provide a rigorous, comprehensive academic program for all students in a safe and supportive environment. Our staff is dedicated to teaching all students skills which will enable them to reason critically, utilize technology effectively, and contribute to their school, community, and world. We have a lot to celebrate at Otter River Elementary School. We currently share resource teachers with Forest Elementary School, and up until now, we've been lucky enough to have enough staffing to provide a resource class to every student every day. Once a week, students participate in library, art, music, PE, and STEM, and they get classroom counseling lessons every other week. Through the efforts of our library media specialist, our school counselor, and our amazing PTA, we had many school-wide events and initiatives during first semester this year. Our librarian coordinated our week-long fall book fair in conjunction with grandparent luncheons every day. PTA volunteers help with that event, and we have a fabulous PTA. They support our school, and they provide opportunities for families to be involved. Our PTA had a fall festival for our students and their families, which is always extremely well attended. Our art and music teachers have an art and music showcase for our younger grades during first semester. Our SCA plans holiday spirit weeks, and our school counselor helps us celebrate Unity Day. She also helps spread awareness throughout the year about bullying prevention, and she leads our school in celebrating October as Kindness Month. She also leads our school's mental health support team, which, among other things, strives to build a strong, positive climate in our school. There's still much to celebrate at Otter River during the spring semester. Kindergartners always love creating and displaying their 100th day of school projects. Our school counselor helps us remember to take care of ourselves and those around us during our school's Kindness Week initiatives. Our SEA gets involved with school spirit days and a community outreach food drive, which this year benefited the Bedford County Department of Social Services Food Pantry. We had our school spelling bee, Read Across America Week, and our spring book fair week with parent luncheons every day this semester. 4th and 5th grade students showed off their skills at the recent Art and Music Showcase, and our wonderful, amazing PTA had their Fun Run fundraiser, which culminated in our school Fun Run event. Families came to watch and cheer and even run alongside their students during this exciting event that students look forward to every single year. There are many opportunities for experiences outside the classroom during spring semester, including Market Day at University of Lynchburg, grade level field trips, our school field day, the AR celebration field trip, and Bedford County Dare Day for our 5th graders. At Otter River Elementary, we love to celebrate and support our staff members. We celebrate Mrs. Kelly Arrington as our current Teacher of the Year, and Mrs. Wanda Reed, our bus driver, one of our bus drivers, as our classified support staff of the year. Staff members also support and mentor future educators and leaders by hosting 11 college interns and practicum students, student readers from Liberty High School FFA during Agricultural Literacy Week, and visiting groups of student teachers from area colleges. We're celebrating a positive school climate as shown here by the Classroom Instructor Summary Report from the most current school climate survey. This data excerpt identifies teachers experiencing persistent symptoms of burnout. Note that Otter River Elementary did not have one single teacher rate themselves as experiencing these persistent symptoms of burnout. This is significantly lower than the division, the region, and the state. This does not happen by accident, especially at a smaller school where every staff member must wear many, many hats. They have to show up every day prepared, remain engaged and aware because there's simply no one else to step up if they don't in such a small school. This kind of positive school climate can only be established when staff members take care of themselves, take care of each other, and take care of their students. It only happens when families are involved and lift up the staff and help take care of the school. And it happens when school staff members invest in the school by building authentic relationships with students, families, and colleagues. Otter River Elementary loves to celebrate student achievement, and we are fully accredited. Even though we are fully accredited, we always look for ways to improve. So now we're going to look at our current school improvement goals from our comprehensive school improvement plan. We have a goal in reading to increase student achievement on the Reading SOL assessment this spring, up from 83% last school year. And we'll do that by focusing on our reading gap groups. Our economically disadvantaged students will achieve at least a 75% pass rate this spring, up from 70% last year. Our students with disabilities will achieve at least a 71.5% pass rate in this spring, up from 65% last year. Strategies include focused small group instruction, reading intervention with our reading specialist, supplemental reading instruction per student IEPs, small group tutoring, implementing the new Benchmark Advanced English curriculum with Fidelity, and also using Lexia Reading high-intensity tutoring. We are also looking to increase student achievement on the Math SOL assessment this spring. We had an 87.25% overall pass rate last year, and we have been focusing on the students with disability gap group this year. That group will achieve at least a 70% pass rate this spring, up from 66.67% last year. And again, the strategies are targeted small group tutoring, students monitored using just-in-time math quick checks, daily tiered math instruction, supplemental math instruction, online practice tools, and Zern math intensive tutoring. And goal 3 is to focus on our climate. This year, we aim to reduce the number of students who receive out-of-school suspensions from 11 students last school year down to 9 students or fewer for this school year. And we are on track to meet that goal. Strategies include conducting a needs assessment survey with our staff to identify areas of concern, displaying posters in hallways, bathrooms, and the cafeteria with school rules and clear examples of desired behaviors. Teachers include these behaviors from posters in their classroom incentive plans. We communicate the contents of posters with the desired behaviors to parents via principals' emails and classroom newsletters. And we also installed a suggestion box for staff so that they can submit suggestions anonymously if they desire. But what's really important is what our students have to say about our school.
What I like about Otter River is it's nice and you have tons of chances to try new things.
I like PE and art and library and my friends and all my teachers.
What I love about Otter River is when we switch classes, we get to see our friends and we don't Honor River is small, cool, and collected, and we have super fun schools.
I love playing with my friends and I love
Honor River is a sweet school, and my teachers can help me how to learn. And I like this school because my mom works here, and she does fun stuff.
What I love about Honor River is there's great friends. We don't have to wear a uniform, and there's cool teachers.
I love reading all the books and all the manuals.
I love my teachers.
And I love learning. Every time you switch classes, you get to see all your friends and you get to do all these fun things like walking club and study hall, and that's it.
I love how the people are just so nice and just a wonderful place to be when it's just not the summer and you're just chilling. It's just a great place. I love Honor River because all the teachers are just so nice and the counselor helps me so much. I love the playground and the staff at Honor River.
I love Honor River because the hallways aren't crowded and it's not a crowded school, and I feel like my teachers and my teachers really like me, and it's just a really calm and safe place to be at school.
I love my friends and the teachers, and it's just a wonderful place to be.
Questions for Ms. Moore?
All right, 21 years ago, you were my teacher, so I just want to say continue the great work you're doing.
Thank you. And you.
I really like the idea that you have the posters, positive reinforcement all around them. And that you have the teachers do assessments. So not just about, performance, but about things that you can do. Collaboration is really important. So things you can do better is, I know as a teacher myself, it was very helpful when I had a say of some of that stuff, and we worked together. That's great.
So one of the great things about your school is the parental involvement. You mentioned several times your PTA, wonderful, excellent PTA group. And I know that contributes to the 0% persistent burnout, which was really cool to see that in light of the rest of the division. But what percentage would you guess of the parents are involved in the PTA?
Well, it depends on how you define involved, really, because there's a lot of different levels of involvement. And so we encourage families to become members of the PTA, even if they don't feel like they can volunteer, to coordinate an event or, supervise students or anything like that. So we probably have more families. It's hard for me to guess a percentage as far as members of the PTA, but if I were to guess a percentage of families that were involved in school activities, it would be extremely high. I would guess 85 or 90%.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Moore, first off, I love the video. That is so cool.
Wasn't that sweet?
It made me smile from ear to ear. What better way to find out how you're doing than right from the kids, right? They love the school. It's easy to love the school, so that's really awesome. So I like that. That's a great environment. I'm interested on the goals 1 and goals 2. The strategies that you guys are that are using. You're using those strategies now, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. How do you and the rest of the staff feel like? Do you feel like progress is being made with them? Are they liking, like the different tutoring and the different curriculums? Are they enjoying that? I mean, it's difficult sometimes when you make that change, but do they feel like the students are grasping it better? Are they enjoying it as well?
I think change is always hard. So when you introduce, for example, you mentioned the high-intensity tutoring. It's difficult to implement something, especially very quickly.
Right.
And it's sort of rolled out from the state pretty quickly. But I will say that I've heard some positive feedback now And I've had some parents say at first their children really hated, for example, math tutoring program at first, but that now they see a real difference
Okay.
with their students doing their math homework, and that they are less reluctant to do their math homework, and that they seem to be grasping some of the skills easier.
Good.
So yeah, we've heard some positive things, and of course now we're in the swing of it, so
Yeah.
you know, staff doesn't have a problem with it, and they get some good feedback
Okay.
from it, so yeah.
So good ease of use once you start getting up to speed there. Okay. Well, that's good. I look forward to seeing the results from that. But I mean, if you have that many happy kids, I would assume when they're happy, they're going to want to do their work. And when they do well on that, they're going to want to keep doing well. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
Any other questions?
I'll just say I also enjoyed the video. It was great that you thought to have the children provide feedback. I would just like to point out, as I continue to build my argument for maximizing PE and recess time, that
We did.
at least 2 of the students said they love PE. And I think the only other class I heard them say they love was art. So not that the other classes aren't important, but that does kind of affirm what I've been talking about, that kids do love to PE and they love recess, and it makes them excited about being at school. And kids don't like to miss the days they have PE. I know my kids don't want to miss PE days, so just wanted to point that out and say again, thank you for that video, it was great.
And I'll have to say, my leadership team had a big part in this, and my IT coach. And so they were really important in getting that video done.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Moore. Maybe.
So members of the board, I'm Joel Avey, and this is my 6th year as principal of New London Academy, and I'm here today to share with you what makes New London such a special community. You have a chance to hear about what we're doing to achieve both academically as how we are working to bring in our families and community to partner with us in supporting our students. A quick overview of our school. We currently have 15 classroom teachers, 2 preschool teachers, and 1 adaptive teacher. We have 308 students K through 5, and then 26 students in our preschool program. A quick look at our mission statement shows that we're focusing not just on building students academically, but we're recognizing the importance of our students going into the community and being leaders and being future part of Bedford County. And so as part of doing this, we have a SCA team, which is your student council, so students 3 through 5. They run for the position, they have to provide a speech to their peers, they get elected, and then they partner with our 5th grade team and play a role in forming, what are some initiatives that the school wants to do. I know they're taking leadership in planning Earth Day activities. And they also do fundraisers and sort of advanced causes that are relevant to the students. Even when we're looking at updating our playground, we go to that SCA and say, what are some ideas that you guys think, where would you like us to expand? So not only are we understanding that we're developing students to be academically successful, we also want to be really good citizens for our community. A quick idea for some of you who may not be aware of New London Academy beyond it's the building you drive by when you're going by 460. New London Academy was originally founded in 1795, which means at this point we have been continually operating for 229 years. At one point it was considered one of the longest continually operating schools in the South. It was a high school up until 1964. You see that white building that you passed by, that is an original construction from 1797. And then the alumni building, which houses some office spaces from around 1830. We do have a sort of museum of sorts, and this is a plug, is something that we're looking to do and find partners with. It's rare that you have something of such historical significance on your property, and we're just looking to find partners as we seek to maintain and keep these structures updated. In a building of that age isn't something that you can just go to Lowe's and get some paint or get some glass. But we have been reaching out to partners in the community. But I do want to highlight, the significance of the historical piece that New London has played within Bedford County overall. Even, for the history people, Thomas Jefferson at one time was writing his stepson, encouraging him to send Thomas Jefferson's grandson. He ultimately did to New London. So there are writings of Thomas Jefferson detailing New London Academy and, that he's toward the ground, those parts. So it is a wonderful little school with a really rich history in Bedford County. Some celebrations at our school is we started the year with a race down 811 to compete against TJ to get the most people enrolled in our PTA. New London did win that competition, and I won by being taped to the wall, which was quite an experience. Duct tape is very insulating, so I caution you, if you ever do that, it'll keep you warm. We also want to recognize, our Teacher of the Year is Miss Holly Palmisano. Our support staff of the year is Mr. Overstreet. New London was home to the Bedford County 23-24 Spelling Bee champion, Miss Tammy Caddy-Acorn, and there she is with Dr. Bergen. And another really great thing that we have is across the street from us is the New London Church. We work with them real closely. They do a feeding program for us. Their members come over and help if we need maintenance in the yard. They're there in the summer helping out. So it's great to have a resource that is so ready to help and be involved with us just across the street. So I do want to highlight that part that we have. Moving into academics, you'll see that New London Academy is accredited through the state. Looking down, you'll see that there are 2 areas that are yellow, and that's our pass rate for students with disabilities in English and in math, and you'll see where we are addressing that as we move into our season. Diving a little bit deeper into the data, I just want to illustrate SOL pass percentages, and these are hard pass percentages. And I want to draw you see the blue colors going diagonal and the purple colors going diagonal. So what that shows you is student progression over time. So a 3rd grade class in 2021 had a 75% hard pass rate on their English SOL. In 4th grade, it moved up to 80%, and by the time they were leaving us in 4th grade, it was 87%. So you see that uniformly across the board that students continue to make progress through the years of the school, and they continue to learn and be more successful. The second part that I added in is I know that there has been a lot of discussion with the board regarding CIP and how we use that data. And so what you see here is our CIP data, and that is the pass rate of our students for the 3rd quarter benchmark. The next thing that I think is important is I know Mr. Hill at the Teacher of the Year banquet and then Dr. White both spoke about establishing a Bedford standard of excellence in that, how do we compare against other schools within the consortium. So the percentile rank is our percentile rank relative to other schools in the consortium, which I believe is 52 to 57 divisions. And so you'll see, percentile, so that means our scores are better than 95% of the schools within that consortium. So I just want to speak to that data lets us know that we're on target, that we're on point with what we're doing. We just need to make sure we follow through and these translate to our performance on the end of year state assessments. But that is one way that we use CIP to make sure that our core instruction, those elements are aligning with what our students need. So moving into our CSIP, our first goal focuses on that area of need, and that is the pass rate of our students with disability. State is decreased failure rate by 10%. Obviously, we look to achieve beyond that, but the initial one is we want to continue to maintain accreditation. So that's our starting goal. Part of the way that we're doing that is really targeting our instruction to meet the specific student needs, making sure that the IEPs are well written and that we are providing the supports and collaborating with the classroom teachers. We've worked really hard with our instruction team and our special ed department. They rolled out the high leverage practices this year and have been doing sort of PDs and our principal meetings to give us some additional strategies and support to apply here. So it certainly has been a group effort in terms of making sure that we are meeting the needs of all our students so you can see the action steps and what we're doing in that line. The second goal is recognizing that students who are proficient at reading at an early age are more likely to continue to be academically successful. We did set a goal to increase the reading achievement of students by decreasing the number of students that fell below PALS benchmark by 10%, and that's on our Spring PALS. The local remediation funds we poured into this year and bringing in additional reading support persons. So we brought in a former teacher who comes in 2 to 3 times a week, runs really targeted small group instruction on students, and we're even targeting a grade level that we've just been pouring a lot of time and resources in making sure that we close that gap for them. So that's one area we are using remediation funding. beyond that, Haggerty and tutoring support, whenever we can find somebody to come in to help out, we use them. Pushing into classroom using the all-in-VA component. So again, we recognize that if we can get students at K1, 2 up and on grade level, it will reap benefits down the road for our school and students. Finally, goal statement 3 looked at, our staff did fill out that school climate and working conditions. Most of these scores were excellent. One area that for us was lower than we would have anticipated was that school burnout that Otter River talked about. And so just looking at that, we want to continue to make sure that we are retaining the excellent teachers that we have. And so we wanted to target a goal to make sure that we were doing all we can administratively and as a school to support our teachers. And so one of that is we have a parent volunteering program. So we have parents who come in and help out in the cafeteria opening lunches. We have copy parents. We have parents who work with our kindergarten to do book bags for it. So first opening ourselves up and saying, how can we come in to alleviate? We have copy moms who the teachers just need to provide, a copy, the number, and a folder. They come in, work behind the secretaries, and run and get those copies for us. So what are the little things that we can do to alleviate that stress? We brought back the walking program in the morning so that students have a chance to get some energy out, give a little extra time for the teachers to plan and get ready for the day. And those are some additional things that you can see. So we're really focusing on making sure that we're retaining the highly qualified excellent staff that we have. No school, and certainly we would not be complete without highlighting the importance of our PTA. We, again, have about 324 kids. We have 170 members within our PTA. And, a lot of families have multiple students there, so about 70% of our family is supporting through our PTA. And they do an absolutely wonderful job of caring for our students and caring for our school. You'll see upper right the picture. We do a movie night twice a year, and so it's free to families. We come out, we have a projector, popcorn, dinner. Families come out, eat on the lawn, watch a movie. And it's just great to see the kids interact and play with each other outside of these school times. I mean, I think the kids just want to play. We could roll a ball out and they'd come out and play. But it's one way of just engaging and meeting with the community and getting everyone together. We do penny wars where we raise funds that we donate back to the community. We were fortunate through the PTA to have a Gaga ball pit installed on our playground. You see a dance night. We have High Five Fridays where parents and dads can come and high five and greet kids coming in. So they do just a wonderful, wonderful job of being there. If we need something, I know I can reach out to our PTA president, our PTA team and say, hey, this is something going on. Can you guys help us with it? And they are always there to partner with us to support. So that really, I think, makes a world of difference for us. Secondly, I know when Forrest spoke, Ms. Manley talked about their Watchdog program. We additionally have a program like that running at New London. This year we had over 70 volunteers or visits by dads coming in to work with our families, so that's a huge amount. I think one of the things that makes our program unique is that a lot of them come for the full days, and we also recognize that these role models, these gentlemen in the kids' lives are giving up days to come in to be with their kids. And so we want to make sure that they are not just there to open stuff in the cafeteria or play on the playground. We want them in the classrooms. We want them working with their students and seeing, when you go home at dinner and your child's talking about something that happened at school and that student because you were in there, the teacher. I think it just builds that openness and community with our family where they know our teachers, they know the classmates, and it's just a really nice way to engage our dads in the education of their dads or father figures in the lives of their students. So I think we have a really, really well-run program there that I do want to highlight. School climate, New London, similar to Otter River, I think we have an exceptional school climate. We do a lot of things to support our teachers. You can see some of the fun things that we're doing there, from dress-up days to teacher appreciation celebration, birthday lunches. And I think what makes the school unique, and I've been in a number of schools in my journey, is that there's a collective sense of accountability and collaboration, and that we understand that students who come in at kindergarten are going to be leaving us at 5th grade, and we all have that responsibility to make sure that they get the best that they can. And so it really is a team and a family working together to help support our students and our community. And I think that shows with the results and the relationships we have with our school community. Finally, one area that we are reaching out, we recently, and this is for the community, a lot of times you'll see on Tuesdays and Thursdays, New London is attached to a community cannery. So at one point when we were in high school, this was used through home ec and so on, other departments. Now it's run by Bedford County Parks and Recs, and so it is still an active cannery that is on our campus. And so a lot of times on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they will be canning and there'll be smoke coming out, and we get people calling us to warn, on 460, I would think the school's on fire. We are not on fire, it is the cannery going. But this year I was fortunate to go down and be able to spend some time with them when they were doing the Hunters for the Hungry program. And speaking with the gentleman who was running the cannery, we started planning out how we could partner with them and possibly do some stuff where our students go in there and learn some practical skills. We talked about maybe applesauce for our 5th graders. And then also on that same day, I met somebody from the Virginia Cooperative Extension who does some programming with us, and she similarly wants to partner to use the resources around us. And I think that just highlights we are always willing to meet with partners and people who want to become invested in our school and find ways to use whatever gifts or abilities or interests there are. There are places for us to partner and find ways to support our school. Do you guys have any questions?
Questions, comments?
Sorry?
Oh, no, you're good.
I just wondered how you get the LU mascot to come out to your school.
We have a really good relationship with LU, and they send a lot of practicum students and student teachers through there, and then a number of our parents work there, and we just overlap with them on a lot of areas. So we call them, we have interest. They'll send, I think that was one of the sports teams, they came out and read to our students, and Sparky came along for a photo, so I think they were 2nd grade, but it is a good resource to have access to so many students who want to come out and help and partner with you.
I love the fact that you're taking what you have in your school and utilizing it, like the canning and even the history. I mean, the kids could get involved in learning more about the history and I think that's great.
Keep it up, District 3.
I also wanted to applaud your use of resources in the area. I just like to see the community investing in the school because that's what gets the kids involved and keeps them engaged and stimulates them wanting to learn, so that's all great. I had a question about of the 324 students, how many are in the special, the SPED program, special needs?
I think our percentage, if you look at the VOE data, it would probably be between 12 to 16% of students are identified as students with disability. And then we do have specialty programs as well that would have a higher percentage in those special ones, but our overall school population is probably 14 to 16%.
Thank you.
I just like the partnership that you have with New London Church. I think that's great. I encourage other schools to look for these opportunities, these partnership opportunities throughout our county. I just think that that's great. And anytime you can get that, it's just, again, just build a nice sense of community. And, I think that's good for the kids to see. I also think it's good for adults to see that too. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think churches would be more open to that if they were invited.
Yeah.
And I know I've been working, because I have a nonprofit, and I've been working with some churches that are involved with schools in Lynchburg, and it's been a godsend to those schools. So, yeah, I would definitely echo that for sure.
So the SOL pass percentage, I just wanted to say thank you. I even called Dr. Woodford looking at me, because she knows I'm all about some data. So I really appreciate that being included, and comparing yourself to others and knowing where you stand within the district and the region. That's important, so I really appreciate that. I wanted to echo the volunteer piece. You mentioned LU volunteers, but I've said it many times, we have way too many universities at our fingertips within, we can go pick people up if we need to get them involved. And I can only, just from experience with LU, I know their students have 20 CSUN hours that they have to get in per semester. And so how do we take advantage of that where kids want to get involved and help us? And I'm only saying that because I know experience from LU, but I know we've got University of Lynchburg, we've got Sweetbriar, several other colleges in our area that we, should certainly want to take them on. That's right. And we can use it as a recruiting effort, right?
Right,
So,
we always take them all.
okay.
Anybody will come.
Yeah, so I really appreciate bringing that up. And then the other thing that I thought was key, and I think it's a good reminder for all of us, for all of our schools, us as a board, use the resources around us. And I thought that was key, and I really appreciate, bringing that out. So that's all I had. Did anybody else have any other questions or comments? Really appreciate that. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
Can I just share something I think would be interesting for you to know? So we are involved with something called Care Portal, where churches in Bedford County can be members of Care Portal, and our school counselors and our school social workers put needs in, and churches pick those needs up. And recently in the Stanton River Zone, the youth and family specialists, the school psychologists, the counselors invited all of the churches in the Stanton River Zone, and they had over 90-some pastors come, and they shared about the resources on Care Portal and invited them to be partners. And so we're doing those things, and we're getting lots of support from our churches in all 3 zones. But we were really excited with the number that we had come for that breakfast. And so we have some neat resources, and I'll make a note because I want to share those with you, because I think you'd be impressed with what our schools are doing all over.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So we're about 22 minutes before 6, so yeah, so Josh, Code of Student Conduct, you're good with that? Okay, all right, Dr. Bergen?
Yeah, this is an annual update for the board and the community, and we're going to highlight for you changes that are going to be coming in the student code of conduct for next school year. All right, good afternoon, members of the board. The process for updating the student code of conduct begins in early February of each year to obtain feedback from principals and division staff on needed additions or modifications for the upcoming school year. These are in addition to the updates that reflect BCPS policy additions or changes that are also reflected in the new Code of Student Conduct. This year, we also solicited parent feedback at the February 27th PTA County Council meeting. During this process last school year, 22-23, there were significant updates, including modifying the leveled responses to student behavior matrix to be more user-friendly by combining elementary and secondary levels into one single matrix and not having a column to identify each applicable level. Levels are now identified in one column by applicable numbers and one column for elementary and a separate column for secondary. In addition, there were 13 codes that had consequences available for administrators to increase, resulting in stricter consequences. Throughout this school year, a team of BCPS administrators, including Dr. Heather Boyles, Thomas Jefferson Elementary School Principal, Dr. Ed Hoisington, BCPS Director of Systems Integration, Mr. Brian Wilson, Jefferson Forest High School Principal, and myself attended 3 required VDOE Region 5 trainings that were focused on ensuring school divisions align their student code of conduct with the 2021 VDOE Model Guidance for Positive Preventative Code of Student Conduct Policy and Alternatives to Suspension document that is required by the Code of Virginia. After attending all 3 of these sessions, our team is very confident that our student code of conduct meets these requirements and is aligned. You will find the updated draft for the 24-25 student code of conduct, as well as a summary document of new updates and modifications to the current code in board docs. The new updates include 5 BCPS policy or Code of Virginia changes, as well as the inclusion of a current search and seizure protocol administrators utilize when students refuse a search when reasonable suspicion has been established. A Wednesday memo was sent on March 20th, 2024, containing the Student Code of Conduct draft document and the summary of changes, requesting that if there were any questions, to let me know. I did not receive any questions at that time. Thank you for your time this afternoon. This concludes our staff report of this Code of Conduct.
So on this code of conduct, if we do have concerns or things that we want looked at, does that go to our IGA team, or how does that?
So the Code of Conduct is a regulation, so it would come to Dr. Bergen.
That's not my question though.
We can discuss at the committee level if you'd like, sure.
Okay, so if we are interested in making changes to the code of conduct, it goes to the IGA for review?
Be your purview. The IGA reviews policies. This is not a policy, it's a regulation.
Okay.
But it's attached to the policy for student conduct, so wouldn't be an inappropriate place for the board to have a conversation at the committee level.
Or just come to you with, this is the concern, and then
Yeah.
how do you review that? Because, I mean, if it's just one of us, that may bring it to you.
Sure.
That's my question, is how do we?
Sure. So we sent the information, has it been a couple of weeks just before?
March 20.
And didn't hear from anyone yet. So we're welcome to hear comments or concerns from any of you. To this date, at this point in time, I've not heard feedback from anyone from the proposed changes that we've already communicated.
Okay. Any questions, comments? All right, thank you. All right, got 15 minutes. Our student is here. Kristen, can we go ahead and do recognition? All right.
All right, Mr. Chairman, and Dr. Bergen and Vice Chair, will you, that'll work, that corner. Every year, the American Legion of Virginia hosts a high school oratorical contest on the U.S. Constitution. Marissa Parrick, the reigning 2022 and 2023 Forensic State Champion, won the American Legion State Contest. Marissa will now go on to compete at the national level in Michigan. American Legion members report that Marissa is the first local student to reach the department level competition since 2012, and the first student since 1945 to make it to the national level competition. So congratulations. You get the first Alicia?
Yeah,
Well, you got a good angle there. I'm gonna follow.
I know, it's like, hey, this is
And I'm
a
gonna
good
go.
spot.
There you go. One more, let Mom. Thank you.
Yeah, Mom's got one.
And then I'll steal one. Thank you. Stay right there, guys.
First, you want to come to the center?
Sure.
Put your right front.
So when is nationals?
Awesome.
All good.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good luck.
Okay. All right, so we've still got 15 minutes before we do public comment time, so let's go ahead and do 7.01. Dr. Bergen?
Yes, sir. So bids for roof replacements for Otter River Elementary School and for Huddleston Elementary were posted since the last meeting. Those bids have been received and they've been reviewed by your facilities committee last Thursday on the 4th of April. And the committee is recommending to the board that you accept SG Young as the lowest bidder for both projects. A summary of the bid submissions is attached to this agenda item. By way of reminder, these projects are already included in the capital improvement plan as adopted by the board, and there are funds identified in the maintenance reserve. Mr. Hagler and the members of the facilities committee are here tonight and available to answer any questions you may have before you take action on the recommendation that you accept SG Young as the lowest bidder for these two projects.
Any questions or comments for Facilities Committee?
I understand we're taking the lowest bid. I don't have the sheet, the other sheet in front of me. What was the projected amount and what was the bid?
It was significantly lower.
They were significantly lower?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
I don't remember the number exactly,
Yeah.
but it was
So,
half or.
we plan in the CIP plan for how much, we just have rough estimates in there.
Yep.
Based upon previous, so, we had set aside for Huddleston, well, we added the metal roof to Huddleston, but originally it was just gonna be the EPDM roof. So adding the metal was probably, we're expecting anywhere between, like around $700,000.
Mhm.
So you can see that came in significantly less in Otter River, almost around 900,000. So these bids came in very attractive, and so, we're moving forward with those.
So, well, first of all, thank you guys for
Yes.
for driving that and getting those numbers way down. Very impressive. What does that include? So based on the current roof that's there today, is anything changing, or is it like for like, or what's gonna be different?
It's pretty much gonna be what's there now,
Okay,
just new. Just new.
just new.
So it's not an overlay.
I think Huddleston might be.
They'll see how good with the Huddleston roof, once they start looking at it and stuff, we'll see if we have any insulation issues that stick to the existing roof. But kind of replacing with what we have there. At Otter River, there is Matt, correct me, it's called ballast. There's like rocks there keeping it down, so we're gonna go back with that. So they're gonna pull that back, replace the roof, put the rocks back in, and keep the ballast down. And so kind of replace what we have there, should get, another 25, 30 years out of both those roofs.
And these are gonna be done over the summer?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
All right, so do we need to take action on this? All right, so do I have a motion to approve Huddleston Elementary and Otter River Elementary roof bids?
So moved.
Mr. Nelms made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Holbrook. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, Dr. Woodford, do we have time for?
We do.
Okay, all right, let's move to 7.02 Perkins Grant.
We're asking the administration is asking the board to approve our Perkins 5 grant application for next year. We presented this to you all for information at our last meeting in March on the 14th. The funds associated with this grant are used to support students in grades 5 through 12 enrolled in career and technical education courses. Again, you've had the information for the past month. If you have any questions here tonight, Dr. Woodford is available to answer them for you before we ask you to approve the plan.
Any questions? Do I have a motion to approve the Perkins Grant as presented?
So moved.
That's Mr. Daniels. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelms. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next one, go for it.
Yes, sir. Administration's requesting that the board approve our annual plan for special education and related services for eligible students with disabilities. The Special Education Advisory Committee, or SEAC, reviewed the plan at their March 19th meeting and had no suggested changes to what the administration brought to the SEAC. Again, Dr. Woodford's available tonight if you have any questions about our annual Title 6B plan. Absent of any questions, we'd ask that you approve the plan moving forward for next year.
Any questions for Dr. Woodford? All right, do I have a motion to approve 7.03 annual Title 6B plan as presented?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Nelms. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Purvis. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. 7.04, Dr. Burke?
Yes, sir. On behalf of your Intergovernmental Affairs Committee, or IGA, we request the board approve the proposed revisions to the policies listed that are associated with this agenda item. However, reminder, these were presented last month for information, so you and the public have had a month to review the proposed changes. As always, full red line versions for the recommendations for these revisions are available for the public's viewing. Just follow the link associated with this agenda item. Members of IGA are present if you have any questions.
Any questions? All right, do I have a motion to approve 7.04 approval of policy updates presented at the March 14th, 2024 board meeting? So moved, Ms. Purvis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Daniels. All right. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, so I just want to do a quick roll call. Dave Dietrich is here. I see Kelsey Mabes, okay, Susanna Shedd, Amy Waldron, okay, and Kenneth Vignali. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with public comment since we do have those members here. The public comment portion of tonight's agenda is limited to 40 minutes. Speakers are asked to state their name and voting district. The school board is here to listen to your comments, but will not engage or respond to speakers during this 40-minute period. Please remember that this is a public meeting and that we expect all speakers to refrain from any foul, profane, abusive, or hateful language during their comments or any time while in attendance during this meeting. We also ask that speakers keep their remarks objective and about the school in nature. Please keep all comments limited to matters related to the public schools, and any comments that are harassing or amount to a personal attack against any identifiable individual, whether board member or staff or student, or having the potential to cause unnecessary delay or disruption to this meeting are prohibited. This is a public meeting for public matters. If a speaker is not present when their name is called, we will proceed with the next name on the list. An individual who is not signed up to speak may not substitute for that time slot. Individuals will have 4 minutes to address the board. An alarm will sound when an individual has 30 seconds remaining, and a second alarm will sound when the allotted 4 minutes have expired. When the second alarm sounds, please discontinue speaking and allow the next person in line to come to the podium. Should you be unable to finish your comments, please send or give them to Ms. Johnson. Ms. Johnson? And she will give them to board members. Please do not adjust the microphone at the podium as it has been positioned for optimum audio quality. Dave Dietrich.
Good evening, I'm Dave Dietrich of the 4th. Ladies and gentlemen, last month we had some students talk about honor cords at graduation. Their courage, politeness, and dispassionate frankness were appreciated. That these students have pursued through their own initiatives extracurricular learning is commendable, especially learning involving critical thinking. To those students, thank you for your hard work and perseverance. Aristotle, in his Nicomachean Ethics, wrote the ultimate good is happiness, what the ancient Greeks understood as eudaimonia, flourishment. How was happiness obtained? Aristotle believed it was obtained through virtue, consisting of moral growth and intellectual growth, essentially pursuit of excellence of character and excellence of thinking. Aristotle also thought virtue was a true mean between excess and deficiency. As example, a person should pursue courage while avoiding the excess of rashness and the deficiency of cowardice. Aristotle also believed there are 4 states of the soul. The first was virtue and taking pleasure in it. The second was self-restraint, choosing the right thing. The third was unrestraint, succumbing to the wrong thing. The fourth was viciousness, being committed to do that which is bad. The first 2 states are good, and the last 2 are bad. Which brings us to honor cords. What is their purpose? Do they promote excellence? Do they inspire? Do they teach moral and intellectual growth? Do they promote unrestraint or viciousness? Or do they promote excess or deficiency? Do they merely satisfy hedonistic desire for recognition and fame? The board should consider these points as it deliberates on the proper course of action for student recognition. If honor cords are proper recognition, then these students should be awarded appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kelsey Mabes.
Hello, my name is Kelsey Mabes, and my children attend Otter River Elementary School in District 7. I'm not fond of public speaking and typically avoid this like the plague. Sadly, this is my second time in little over a year speaking to the board for poor decisions that impact our school and our children's well-being. Otter River, as everyone knows, is a very small school. It's filled with fantastic teachers, staff, and students. Unfortunately, being small also means that we tend to be the first to lose playground equipment, resources, and teachers. Last year, we were told that we were too small to justify hiring more teachers. We were then told that we were too large for the number of teachers provided, and the district decided to end zone transfers. This meant that students who had been coming to ORES for years were turned away. It also meant that families were split up because we allowed zone transfers in some grades, but not in others. This decision caused our school numbers to drop. Every year, I wait for the disappointing news that I will have to share with my first and second grader. I was hopeful this year would be different, but sadly it is not. 2 weeks ago, we were told that ORES would be losing our full-time counselor position. It was shared that due to our school numbers, the sizing standard only deemed that ORES could have a part-time school counselor. This means that our nearly 170 students would only have a counselor on 2.5 out of 5 days. The standard the county is using was set into place to stop counselors from being overwhelmed by their caseload, not to justify a half-time counselor. To say that I was appalled by this decision would be an understatement. In a world filled with new research and information on the importance of child development and mental health, it is shocking that this discussion is something that we must have. Ms. Lyle has been a saving grace to Otter River Elementary School. She has weathered many storms with our students. She has supported them through crisis, taught them how to interact with one another, and built them up at times when they felt all alone. She is what every student should have in a school counselor. She has built amazing relationships and impacted so many young minds. This school year alone, she has received over 200 referrals for students requesting counseling services. She's led 343 individual counseling sessions on top of countless classroom lessons and small group sessions. Over the past 4 years, there have been 17 suicide risk assessments in our small school alone. No child wants to relive their trauma, so asking them to do this with a new counselor next year would be detrimental. There is no way that her job can be done in 2.5 days without negatively impacting our students. The thought of ORES losing Ms. Lyle is devastating. A counseling crisis is never scheduled, and the fact that we're asking it to be is absurd. We need to stop looking at these students as if they're numbers on a piece of paper to be manipulated at will. I could go on forever, but due to the time limit, I know I cannot. I have copies here with me of OREL's mental health statistics and counseling numbers. I want to encourage each one of you to take one of these tonight so that you can truly understand what a school counselor does and how much we need a full-time school counselor at ORES. Thank you for your time.
Susanna Shedd here yet? Okay, we'll come back. Amy Waldron? Oh, she's here, I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
Good evening, my name is Susanna Shedd, and I'm Miss Lynchburg 2024. I'm also a student at the University of Lynchburg, and today I would like to speak to you all about the importance of including a medical health professions class in our high schools. Considering the lack of students being able to volunteer in the hospitals and the lack of medical career advocacy in public schools, there has been drastic shortages in medical personnel nationwide. There's a predicted shortage of 54,000 to 140,000 physicians in America by 2033. And currently 300,000 physicians have left the medical field since 2021. Furthermore, America could face a shortage of nurses up to 13 million by 2030. These drastic shortages are largely due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the mental toll that it took on many of the nation's physicians. According to the American Medical Association, 45% of all physicians are 55 years of age or older, and though their wisdom is needed in the field of medicine, they are getting more and more burnt out, and hospitals have to extend the careers of these physicians because there's no new medical staff coming in. Lack of education and lack of student volunteer opportunities are both major reasons in why students don't want to work in the medical field. The field of medicine is so broad and can be very overwhelming to students who already have enough stress in their lives. By offering a medical health professions class in all high schools, students would be able to be taught about the 200 medical careers that they could pursue. Many of these careers do not require 8 years of schooling, and the students need to be made aware of these opportunities for them. This class could also offer field trips where students go and meet healthcare specialists in their fields of medicine and talk to them and learn about what that job actually entails. I would like to emphasize that this is an elective-bearing course open to all students who are interested in medicine and would not be one of those special programs where you have to sign away things like a nurse aid program or an EMT program. By encouraging students to pursue medicine through educational courses and these student volunteer opportunities, the next generation of healthcare professionals would be secure. Thank you so much.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to y'all. My name is Amy Waldron. I'm a resident, a business owner of Bedford County for the last 20 years. I have 4 children that are Bedford County Public School alumni, and now I have 3 grandchildren. The role of our guidance counselors in our school is to help our children to succeed academically and to help guide them socially and emotionally with emotional skills. In November 2022, my son passed away unexpectedly. My grandson attends Otter River. We were at a loss on what to do. We had a 5-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 6-year-old on how to navigate through the grief process. 3 Bedford County public school guidance counselors stepped up to the plate. No one in the private sector helped us. Miss Lyle took my grandson from Otter River and was there for him in a time that he needed it when he lost his father. She wasn't only there for my grandson, she was there for my daughter-in-law, and she was there for me. There was a 3 to 6 month waiting period in the private sector. These guidance counselors do more than just push papers or sit in the office or do whatever. These teachers couldn't have picked up those pieces for these children, but Miss Lyle took my grandchild and helped him navigate through a time when he really needed something, and helped him navigate through the grief process and gave him what he needed and helped him to understand what happened to his father. And I am grateful for that. And it helped me once the dust settled and everybody kind of forgets about you once the funeral's over with and everything else. I walked into Otter River one day to have lunch with my grandson, and she spoke to me. And she asked me how I was doing. That speaks volumes to me because nobody else was doing that. Nobody else. The dust is settled, my son's gone, but she remembered me, and it was because I was with my grandchild. And she said if there was anything she could ever do to let her know. And she's been there, and that was in November 2022. She's never forgotten about my grandchild, she's never forgotten about me, and she's never forgotten about my daughter-in-law. Mental health is just as important as an academic process in these school systems. If a child is suffering mentally, they are not going to progress academically. And it's not fair if you take away Ms. Lyle and put extra on the teachers or the principal or anything else. So numbers should not dictate how our children's mental success should be. Thank you.
My name is Kenneth Vignali. I grew up here. I've got 4 kids here in the 5th District. I'm here to talk about a grooming situation that involves my 14-year-old daughter, and it's through 2 classes really at Jefferson Forest High School. Just a quick background, I've spent the last, since 2007, in cybersecurity. I spent 8 years in the military. Doing a lot of stuff from hostage rescues and things like that. So it's just an area that I've spent a lot of focus on and was hoping not to have to, work through for my own family. I want to start off by saying, I recognize, ensuring our kids have the best resources to prepare them for life and to compete in the global marketplace is always a challenge. We recognize for decision makers in the public education space, this is especially difficult, especially since COVID, right? Making sure kids have access to the technology and resources they need. And then, so my focus is on, how can we look at, putting some safety controls around that, right? So not just coming to you with a problem, but also proposals on how to fix that. Basically, there's a lot of different definitions out there about grooming. It doesn't always start in a sexual capacity. With her, it started with a very, regardless of political beliefs, again, not Republican, Democrat, but the bottom line issue is in communication through another student with a professor at, I think, the University of Connecticut. So, did a lot of investigations, spoke to people in Congress. I know about him. And he's got a long history of grooming kids around the country. So, this really started around October or November of this past year. I found out through somebody in the community that she had posted a personal opinion piece in the News in Advance, which is fine, right? You want our kids to learn how to express themselves, how to communicate. But the bottom line is, the material that she posted and that they published with her personal information was not her material. What it was it was an excerpt from change.org that this gentleman proceeded to have her, sent to the News in Advance and other people. So as I dug into it, looked at all the communications, I gained access to her school Chromebook. I did a Google takeout, did, my little investigation, and put together a timeline of events, who in the school put them in communication, how long she'd been communicating. And then I also tried to involve the principal at Jefferson Forest High School and the school counselor. I said, I need help to get more access to information, and they were not really receptive. So they said they would, they didn't, so it just, went silent for a long time. So I did some, mitigation controls on my own. She's now homeschooled full-time for various reasons, but my 3 other students are still in the county. There are other things, I've got outlined here I'm going to share with the board, when I leave here about some other concerns about the new cybersecurity class that the district rolled out this past year. Had a lot of negative interactions with that teacher, having students sign up for inappropriate, websites, teaching them how to hack and bypass school controls. And then he was also playing, inappropriate video games that had sex and drugs in them, in the classroom. So tried to handle some things directly with him and raise my concerns with him. He was not receptive. Ended up pulling my daughter out of that class within 24 hours, with the help of, I hear the alarm, but.
It's 30 more seconds.
30 more seconds. So very, very long, drawn out, but the bottom line is there are a lot of issues from, anyway, so I'm kind of mumbling my words here, I guess. I haven't spoken in public for a long time, but, I own a company called Signature Peace of Mind Advisors. I work with families around the country dealing with cyberbullying, sextortion, a lot of other issues. And, I've got a lot of resources and solutions I'd like to bring to the table with the board. So if you could take a look at this report I put together, consider it. I've included my contact information for, future conversations.
If you'll hand that to Ms. Johnson. Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, we have other slots available if anyone here would like to speak. Anyone else?
speak.
Okay.
I'm Kathy Thomas. I really don't. I'm in the Otter River, but I'm in Mr. Nelm's district. I have had 2 children now at Otter River High School or elementary school. My oldest graduated from JF. My youngest is in 5th grade. This is her last year. I'm also the PTA treasurer at Otter River and have been for the past 2 years. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I'm going to because it needs to be done. I want you to look at this crowd of teachers that we have here and parents from Otter River, because we all support Otter River Elementary School. Even when we have school board members that don't want to, I understand that changes need to be made, and I understand it's a small school. That's why some of us have our kids at Otter River, because it is the school that we want our kids at. I don't know why you want to take a counselor away. A child could have a mental crisis at any given moment. I will be honest, you pull our principal out of the schools, and it's not just our school, it's every school. And let me also let you know who I am as well. I'm an educator of 25 years. I've worked for Bedford County. I don't work for Bedford County anymore for a reason, because I don't like the changes that you like to make. I chose to go off elsewhere. I actually worked with a lot of Bedford County students, though, in my tenure, and I still continue to work with them. Our children do not get to choose when they're going to have a meltdown. If we don't have a principal in the building because they're at a central office school board meeting, or not school board meeting, but truancy meeting, or any other meetings, and Miss Lyle or whoever may replace her, they're not going to have a choice of who. We got to pull now a teacher. How you can think pulling a guidance counselor from a full-time position to a half-time position is absolutely absurd. We need a counselor in every elementary school, every high school, every middle school, every day, because we do not have the resources to handle some of the things that she can handle. Some of us are not trained to handle those circumstances either. She is. I'm not sure why that's there, but I'm going to also piggyback on what Ms. Mabes said. Part of the reason Otter River is the small size it is right now is because of this school board not allowing zone transfers last year and kicking a lot of our parents and students out, or giving them the choice that you could have one kid here, but we'll put your other kid at TJ or New London or wherever else. How is that possible for a parent to choose and say, I'm going to put my kids at two different schools? It's not feasibly possible when you're a working parent. I'm not sure why you want to choose to do these things, and I understand that our resource classes may not be as important to all of you, but for some of our students, that is the number one class that some of these kids absolutely enjoy, is resource, or having their library and having their STEM classes in there, and we're making those part-time and half-time positions as well to be shared in 2.5 days. A child does not get to have when they're going to have a mental crisis or just a bad day in general and need to talk to a counselor. There's no reason at all to taking that out. And I'm going to piggyback that with also saying we're more concerned about having a 2.5-day counselor, but yet it's more important to have a full-time SRO in all of our schools all the time, like every day, but yet not a counselor. What's the possibility of being more proactive than reactive? Because that's what I see if you're going to keep an SRO every single day, all day in a middle school, elementary school, and a high school, but you're going to take a counselor out. We have counselors for a reason, so we are not reactive. We can address the problems before they happen, and that's what Ms. Lyle does every day. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak tonight? Still have time available.
You want to speak?
All right. I will close tonight's portion. Public comment. All right. You sure you're representative here? Okay. All right. Moving on to presentation 5.01 social media addiction presentation. Mr. Bradley Huddleston.
Is it my turn now?
It's your
Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for having me in the school board. Thank you. I live in Augusta County, but I have roots here. I'm a Huddleston, so we have our own town down here. My dad and mom were divorced, and I spent a lot of my time near Thaxton and run around the planet now doing a lot of research and dealing with cyber issues. My specialty is in digital addiction, so I want to hopefully bring something to the table that adds value as we're all trying to grapple with the supersaturation. Ms. Purvis, thank you for inviting me here. I met her in Richmond at a conference where I was speaking to school board members from across the state. This is my wife, Beth. She's also in the photograph there. I write books and do a lot of research, and I'm published. I'm very thankful for that. I wrote this book about 15 years ago. It's called The Dark Side of Technology. So I've been beating this drum for a long time, but I don't hate technology. My first degree was in computer science. So now, granted, the waters of the Great Flood were receding when I got that degree. It's a bit old now. But it did lay the foundation for what I'm doing now. So the current books that I'm getting ready to embark on, yet another global tour, is Digital Cocaine. And this is a clinical look at digital rehabilitation with the centers. There are 400 such digital rehab centers in South Korea dedicated to nothing but digital addiction. And so that's what I specialize in. So one of the things that we look at when you're looking at cognition and things of education, you look at brain scans, and this is a form of CT scanning, but it stands for single photon emission computed tomography scans, which are for the brain. And you can clearly see what's going on. So in this, you're seeing here a baseline of a normal brain, of which you then compare what you think is a damaged brain, and you measure the deviation. So this is someone who smokes marijuana. And if you were to take the brain out of the skull, it wouldn't look that way. What you're seeing there is a measure of blood flow or the lack of blood flow. And when you get to the cocaine users, all of these drugs tend to affect the brain similarly, but just in different regions. But where this comes in with digital, and the reason why we named the second book that I've written Digital Cocaine, is because video gaming does this. And the educational video games do the same thing. We didn't know this when I was getting my computer science degree. And I was gung-ho about a lot of things, and I still am gung-ho with technology. But then the needle has moved so far to one side, and I think my objective would not to be get rid of everything, but to move the needle back, maybe in a balanced fashion. So it's just all the evidence here, and I do this in a much longer form of seminars, just showing what happens. We've talked, and I've heard some comments here tonight about suicidal ideation, and we deal with that quite a bit. And in fact, the conference where I met Ms. Purvis, I was on a panel with a neuroscientist and a clinical psychologist, and that's what we were talking about, and I think it's what may partly piqued her interest. But the ADHD and the autistic spectrum that is growing, there's a digital link to that as well. Some of that's organic, some of it is definitely being induced by the digital. And so that's what we study, and that's the prefrontal cortex, and this is germane to children. Basically, they don't have that developed, as we know as educators. And so when you hand them a device that's generating the equivalent of amounts of dopamine as cocaine would produce, this is what their brains are going to look like. So they're not going to have impulse control to be able to stop. And so now we have the devices being used as babysitters and things like that. So I'm not here to judge that. I am probably guilty of everything that I talk about. It's just that once I learned these things and was burned out, I've sort of come back in a bit more balanced direction. So again, these drugs affect the brain similarly, and one of the big issues that we have now, of course, is pornography. And the stats are clear that it's just ubiquitous now, it's part of culture. But as you can see from that brain scan, trying to rehab a porn addict, and that is screen addiction, one on the right there, that brain received the stimulation through the eyes and it went into what's called the nucleus accumbens of the brain. And it responded the same as a mixture of cocaine and heroin, and that's why that is more difficult to treat a porn addict than it is a heroin addict, and any clinician would tell you that. So when it comes to some misconceptions about this, Dr. Victoria Dunkley out at UCLA, she handles this quite a lot with the autistic side of digital addiction, inducing the ADHD and some of the problems that are affecting. But in her research and what she found out at UCLA is that we used to believe that if it's educational or things like that or podcasts that are positive, that it wasn't affecting the brain. And she found out quite differently that it's essential to realize that any electronic screen interaction, regardless of the content, can irritate the nervous system. So it's the medium, not the message. And this is where it affects the schools. I leave in 2 weeks. I spend quite a bit of time in Australia, quite a number of countries. Australia had the first one-to-one laptop and tablet program in 1989 in Melbourne, Australia. So it's a great testing ground for me to do research and write academic papers and books and things like that, because they're way ahead of the curve. Microsoft has mentoring schools there in which they outfit the schools with all of the equipment, and then they do their tests there before Redmond releases it to the rest of the world. And I speak at those schools. And there was a time when they would never have somebody like me in there because of what I'm telling you, but the pendulum has swung so far to the side of the mental health issues that they're now giving an ear to people like me. Not to say we should get rid of it all, but we're definitely needing to do something about it. So now we're faced with artificial intelligence, and I've been speaking quite a bit about that, and I'll just pull out one thing that's germane to the education sector, and of course it's ChatGPT. I went to ChatGPT and I just simply typed in, I'm a 5th grade student, write a 500-word essay on the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, and in less than a second, a perfectly written, well-researched document came out on a 5th grade level. I copied it, pasted it in Word, and in 2 minutes I had a paper. I went back to ChatGPT, entered the exact same prompt, and out came another very well-written 5th grade paper on the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. And I subscribe to the MIT Review. I don't know if any of you even know what that is. You may know what that is, but the algorithms that try to catch this have now all been circumvented. So you can't catch it, that's what they're saying. So one of the things that Ms. Purvis asked me to bring up, and I've actually spoken at one of these schools, out in Silicon Valley, when I first started doing all this work, I thought these guys out in Silicon Valley, they must have their stuff, that next year's stuff, and the year after that, they're going to have that in their homes first. And what I found was quite the opposite. So this comes from the New York Times. The chief technology officer of eBay sends his children to a 9-classroom school here. So do employees of Silicon Valley giants like Google, Apple, Yahoo, and Hewlett-Packard. But the school's cheap teaching tools are anything but high-tech. Pens and paper, knitting needles, and occasionally mud. Not a computer to be found. They're not allowed in the classroom. The school even frowns on their use at home. Also from the New York Times, this is about Steve Jobs and how he ran it in his home. So your kids must love the iPad. And he shockingly said, and famously said, most of us know this by now, he never let his children use the iPad. For all the reasons that I'm talking about here tonight and more. And I tell parents at parent meetings all over the world, you know, these tech executives love their children. Not yours, theirs. And I care about them like you do. We're educators. I spend a lot of time with thousands and thousands of kids every year, and I've seen the fruit. I'll be in the police car, and I started working with law enforcement in Australia, and we'll be throwing lifelines to children who've been groomed, children whose sexting images have ended up on offshore porn sites, throwing them a lifeline to say, you have amnesty today. If you'll just come and tell us what all's going on, we'll help you, and you won't get in trouble. And so there are some law enforcement around the world that's very aggressive to try to help the kids. As I mentioned in Australia, they were way ahead of the curve, and this is just an example of a lot of the data that I, obviously in the short time that I have with you tonight, don't have time to go piece by piece, but this encapsulates sort of an aggregate. This is one of the best known private schools in Australia, very expensive, and they made headlines in the Australian, which is the equivalent of our USA Today, and the headline says, "Computers in Class, a Scandalous Waste." And this is what it says: a top Australian school has banned laptops in class, warning that technology distracts from old school quality teaching. The headmaster at Sydney Grammar School, John Vallance, described the billions of dollars spent on computers in Australian schools over the past 7 years as a scandalous waste of money. I've seen so many schools with limited budgets spending a disproportionate amount of their money on technology that doesn't really bring any measurable or non-measurable benefits, he said. And then we're talking about the suicidal ideations and all of these things that are coming up. And so more and more and more you're seeing this in the news. Self-harm is something that I see on a regular basis. The children will come up after meetings in schools that I speak at and pull up their pants legs and their sleeves, and it's heartbreaking. They'll show me the cuts because I've just explained to them neurobiologically why they're doing it and why they get relief from it, why they actually feel a sense of peace from it. And so we talk about consistent sleep because they have the devices in their bedroom. And when we do that, I show a picture of my sleep monitor. And we cycle the part of the brain that controls sleep is in the brainstem right in the back of the neck. And it sends out a pulse about every 90 minutes. And we cycle in and out of light sleep and REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, and deep. And if you total up those dark blues, and that's the deep sleep where all the good stuff happens and all the information from the hippocampus that the students, when the information has gone in, if it's gone in properly, that's when it gets transferred to long-term memory at night and all those sort of things. If you total that up, and that's 40%, your brain is reset. No child that I know of ever gets anywhere near that because of devices in the bedroom. So it's not the device, it's in the bedroom is the problem. Am I making sense? And of course the device does come with it. We know now through neuroscience that if they listen to music with their earbuds while they study, their brains go into what's called a switching mode or a rapid toggling mode, and information is just leaving right and left. And trying to get a child not to listen to music while they study is like asking them, would you like to go to the dentist and be drilled? And so it's challenging what we do. And then no music while sleeping. It's doing the same thing. The brain monitors are showing quite clearly what they're doing. And then the chemicals that are released in the brain from the light and the blue screen, it's a well-known science. It's been around for years. The blue light mimics the sun, which is about the color temperature is about 5,000 Kelvin. And it's releasing a lot of chemicals in the brain, stimulating chemicals from the adrenal glands. And it takes about 3 hours before they dissipate. And so they never sleep properly. And that's bringing a lot of the mental health issues about from a lack of sleep. So I'll end with just a couple of things. This is a sleep monitor from a teacher that I challenged. He was grading assignments on the school iPad. So it was an Apple school in Australia. They're crazy about stuff there. And we are here too. Them probably a little bit more. But he was not getting into deep sleep for 2.5 hours after he went to bed. And you can clearly see it. And I said, well, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm grading assignments on the iPad. And I think he thought because it's education on the iPad, it wouldn't bother him. It's not like I'm playing video games or looking at pornography or anything like that. And I said, no, it's not the content. It's the interactivity with the screen that's doing it. So he said, well, what do I do? I said, well, tomorrow night, shut everything off an hour before bed and read a book, print it on paper. Do you remember paper? And so he did, and he came back glowing the next day, and he said, look, I stopped an hour before, read a book, and within 20 minutes I was in deep sleep. And so I hope that this information is actually helpful. We know what the problems are, and there's certainly solutions. And no screen time before school, because of the chemicals that get released. They have what is called post-stimulation attentional drift, and the poor teacher in the first 3 periods has to put up with all these stimulating chemicals before it calms down. So here's the conclusion. These are fMRIs, functional magnetic resonance imaging. The kid on the right plays Minecraft, and if you notice, his brain scan is vastly different than his normal brother and sister. All that color is very similar to the other scanning technology, meaning they're being stimulated properly. The blood flows and the neurons are firing in the right places of the brain. But this child is what we call anhedonic, meaning his brain has shut down. He's become bored with everything except hot. Does that sound familiar? I'm bored. Okay. Well, what has happened is his mother is trying to get him, he's sitting in front of his video game. She's trying to get the game away from him to put him in a study where they're going to detox children and then do after scans to see if it will work. And of course, as you know what happens when you try to take a tablet away from a child or a phone. They go nuts. Well, he went nuts. But they put these children in summer camp with no technology. Not even a little bit on Saturday for good behavior. You know why? Cocaine is bad on Saturday like it is on Tuesday. So they detoxed him for 3 weeks at Wayne State University. That's where the study happened. Not knowing what would happen if the brain would reset. And after 3 weeks, here's the good news. Here's why I really came to talk to you. After 3 weeks at summer camp, they rescanned his brain, and this is what happened to him. And so there's great hope that when these children are having suicidal ideation, they're self-harming and doing all these things, and at least the part that's related to digital addiction, there's many causes, but at least that part goes away. So thank you for your time, and Ms. Purvis, thank you for having me tonight. I appreciate it, y'all.
Looks like we're going, do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Mr. Chair, pursuant to Code of Virginia 2.2-3711A13, 1, to discuss the assignment, appointment, performance, disciplining, and release of contract for specific school board employees. 3, discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose or for the disposition of publicly traded real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body.
I have a motion by Mr. Daniels. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Nelms. Any discussion? All those in favor to go into closed session, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are now in closed session. Ms. Johnson, if you'll certify. I'm sorry, I do need to make a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Nelms. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Holbrook. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are out of closed session. Thank you for that reminder.
Welcome. Whereas the Bedford County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And where Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Bedford County School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
All right, do I have a motion of the approval of the consent agenda as presented?
Chair, I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion by Mr. Daniels. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Holbrook. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, Dr. Bergen, Superintendent's report.
All right, I'm going to start my comments tonight celebrating the recent successes of some of our BCPS students. First, congratulations to the, can I let's make sure I do. Yep. Sorry about that. First, congratulations to all the students who participated in the 52nd Annual Central Virginia High School Regional Science Fair to show off their research knowledge, dedication, and skills. And pictured on the right, you see we have Odyssey of the Mind teams from Forest Middle and Jefferson Forest High School. They won first place in their divisions at the Piedmont Regional Tournament and now go on to compete at the States with a chance to go to the World Finals. And in addition, the JF team received super special extra recognition from the judges because they were over the top in their creativity and their performance and problem solution. Congratulations to all of these students. Continuing on the left, you're going to see that the county was well represented at the Virginia Regional History Day competition. We had 50 kids from our high schools compete, many receiving first, second, or third place, and are now advancing to upcoming state competition at the end of this month. Congratulations to all those who participated, as well as those pictured on this slide on the right from the PTA Reflections competition. There was a theme of I am hopeful because, and students from preschool through grade 12 were invited to create theme-based artwork in the categories of dance, choreography, film production, literature, musical composition, photography, or visual arts. We have so many talented students and we're proud for them and for their creativity. And thank you also, as pictured on the right-hand side, to our JROTC students who were there again to present the colors and lead in the Pledge of Allegiance. In partnership with the Bedford County Economic Development and many other community partners, our students had the opportunity to learn more about local hospitality and tourism, including how to manage a local restaurant, as well as the aspects of working in a pro shop with a former PGA pro golfer. If high school students are interested in participating in future Bedford One tours, they simply need to contact their school counselor. As a side note, Mr. Chair, you've asked for ongoing economic development. We've received no new information either from the town or the county about any pending development that we haven't already shared that would affect our BCPS school enrollment. Congratulations to our Bedford's Best recipients for the month of March. Lee Frazier from TJ was nominated for her individualized support in her inclusive classroom setting, and Amy Johnson from the Alternative Education Center was nominated for helping her GED students to succeed. Thanks to our partnership to the Bedford Area Educational Foundation for their continued financial support so that we can celebrate our amazing staff every month. Please keep the nominations coming. Follow the link on our website. We recently had the opportunity to celebrate our newly announced Teachers of the Year for the upcoming 24-25 school year at an annual banquet. In addition to a beautiful venue, great company, and delightful conversation, we were able to shower our excellent educators with gifts due to the generous donations from the community partners that are listed on this slide. We appreciate their support in seeing how important education is for our county. And congratulations to all of those individuals who were selected as Teacher of the Year for their school. March and April are months of celebration that recognize many different positions and families that make up our community. We finish March by celebrating our athletic trainers. They help keep our student athletes healthy as well as serve as positive role models and mentors. And in April, we're celebrating Month of the Military Child. These remarkable young individuals, who number over 1.6 million across the nation, face unique challenges and sacrifices due to their parents' military service. We are proud to shine the spotlight on these families for their service and dedication. National Assistant Principals Week was celebrated across the nation last week, which unfortunately fell during spring break. So this week, we're recognizing the significant role our assistant principals play. Thank you for your dedication to bolster our teachers, to motivate our students, and assist our principals in helping all students to succeed. Also, April 4th was National School Librarian Day. This day recognizes those professionals who spend long hours keeping our libraries organized, helping our students find the learning resources they need, and most importantly, encouraging our students to love to read. And here are the 3 things you need to know. Currently, the Bauer Center for the Arts is hosting an art exhibition through this Saturday, April 13, featuring our middle school students' artwork. There's a reception and an awards ceremony tomorrow. So if you have some time, I would encourage you to stop by the Bauer Center and see some of the great artwork on display from our middle school students. We are going to be celebrating our CTE students and their successes at an upcoming signing day ceremony, which will be held on Tuesday, May 7 at Susie G. This annual event is planned in partnership with the Bedford County Economic Development and other community partners so that we can showcase our students who will be, upon graduation, going straight into the workforce to support the local community, as well as those students who have enlisted in the military to serve our nation. We hope you'll be able to join us on May 7 to celebrate these students as your time allows. And the week leading up to our next board meeting, the week of May 6 through 10, we're going to be showering all of our teachers with our appreciation. Parents here in the room or those who are watching online, please take the time and write a note to your child's teachers and let them know just how much you appreciate all of their hard work and dedication. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my comments.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. 11.01 is discussion on policy services alternatives. As you guys should remember, a couple months back, we talked about what we are currently paying for BSBA. We talked about alternatives as far as being able to continue to use board docs. We've verified that we will be able to do that. It will cost more because we're not with VSBA, but the savings is still significant if we as a board decide to move away from VSBA. So Ms. Johnson, keep me honest here, but we did say if the board takes a consensus that we can give directive to the executive team to not renew that contract at the end of June. So I would like to recommend that the board have consensus to move away from the VSBA and paying that money. And we would continue with board docs, and then any policy or procedure would come through IGA. We would utilize our attorney to validate or make changes or updates to those policies. So I will open it up for discussion, but I am looking for consensus of the board to move forward with that.
Got mine.
Okay.
Agreed.
Johnny, you're good?
Do we substitute that with School Board Member Alliance, or is this something separate?
There is options for each member to be a member of the School Board Member Alliance. But at this time, what I'm recommending is the policies that we look at or update, we would utilize our current attorney to validate that we're doing what is passed down from the state to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
I would agree with that.
I agree.
Okay, good. All right, so Ms. Johnson, we have consensus of the board to not renew our VSBA contract, and we'll continue to utilize board docs and our attorney. All right, thank you. All right, committee reports, we'll start with Mr. Daniels.
IGA, we just approved our action items from the previous meeting. We meet again tomorrow at 9 o'clock. You can handle finance.
Yes, sir.
The CBO, we do not have a March meeting. Our upcoming meeting is 23rd, I believe, of April. And we've set for the fourth Tuesday of every month from here out.
So I went to the teacher appreciation banquet, and it was a pleasure to see all the really wonderful teachers that we have and staff that were there.
Ms. Ernst, this is just committee updates.
Oh.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep.
Then I'm not, I did have a STEM and Gov School meetings, and I'm sorry that everything looks good.
Okay. Good to
And the
move.
CPO didn't meet, so.
Okay, all right.
Go School meeting Monday, April 14th, and then we have a CTE advisory meeting on April 18th at 8 AM, and it's a virtual meeting.
So we had a facility meeting last Thursday. Went over the roof bids for Holston Otter River, which Randy presented tonight. And we reviewed the procurement options for Stewartsville on the HVAC and the roof. Decided to move forward with a PPA on that, to get some bids in on that and add the roof into it. And we don't have to accept that, obviously.
Okay, but that will come back to us to vote on.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. And,
I think July, right? Thinking it should come back in July or somewhere in.
June, July.
June or July.
I think it was June what we said. Should be coming back.
We'll present on that. We'll have the document ready to present to the whole board to put it, to solicit those at the next meeting, which would be May. So we'll hopefully get bids in by June.
Okay.
Or
45 days, so
it might be July. We might give more time.
it's gotta be out for 45 days.
Okay.
And we just talked about the 5-year CIP plan as far as adjusting that, for prioritizing it. And we're gonna get some quotes for the Boonesboro atrium, which has failed, the repair on that, and Manita windows at Manita Elementary, in the back building.
Okay.
And our next meeting's May 31st.
Do you guys have an update on the PPEA for Liberty High School and Stanton River?
From Monday night's meeting.
They vote on it, it's gonna be voted on the 22nd,
Okay.
as far as that goes.
So are we at a place where we want to share or can share? I want to make sure we're keeping everybody updated on what the PPEA is requesting and what our plans are on moving forward. So is that something you guys can speak on, or do you want Mr. Hagler to speak on it?
Or do we need to, are we waiting on the board supervisor at this point?
Do
I
we
just
wanna
wanna
say
know-
anything?
If you want me to speak on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
With the board, we've been in negotiations with Jamerson Lewis. William Cook was there with me on Monday night presenting. There were questions about details in the proposal about products and getting to that. So overall, it is comprised of a gym at Bedford Primary. Refurbishment, when I say refurbishment, there's a lot of work that's gonna be done on the canopies. It's just not painting them. There's a lot of work that's gonna be done, but in essence, leaving the concrete, but stripping everything else off, moving electrical and some communications off, redoing the plumbing, fixing some concrete sidewalks, and then adding some more canopies where we don't have them right now. It also includes some canopy work at the very front of the schools for, a nice entryway to define the schools. So canopy projects at both Liberty High and Stanton River High School, and then quite a bit of work on the auditoriums. Renovation of the auditoriums, like what's there now, the guts, you're talking AV, lighting, and seating and other issues there, but then also added space at both buildings too. So those are the the auditoriums are the bigger ones, where most of the money is.
The Stanton
But,
River's gonna be pretty much doubled size, I think it's 10,000 square feet.
yeah, Liberty had a little bit larger auditorium than Stanton River, so the Stanton River is a little bit larger project than what we're adding there. So, detailed drawings and stuff, there's only kind of conceptual on that. If the Board of Supervisors votes to proceed on the 22nd, then we'll start with the committee, working with Jamerson and getting detailed drawings going. Then we can hopefully in months coming up, if it's approved, then get some more conceptual designs for the community and put out, this is what it's gonna look like.
Okay. And we did say that it would be additional awnings where there are none today.
Yes, that is included.
Okay.
Like getting to the cafeteria at Stanton River.
Yeah.
Just wanna make sure.
That is included, yes.
Okay.
And the front entryway where we talked about, giving it a defined spaces when you come up to the schools.
So we're moving forward.
Yep.
We've got some more information to get. Board of Supervisors has it for the 22nd.
April 22nd, they vote because they have to take a formal vote to actually, as if they're issuing bonds.
Okay.
Even though it was the Liberty loan. Yep.
All right, thank you. Mr. Knight?
That's it. I was in the same meeting as Mr. Holbrook.
Okay. Finance Committee, I know we haven't had one recently, but do we have another scheduled or are we waiting for the actual?
Would you like to be brief on that, Dr.
Sure.
So we're waiting to see what the state's gonna do. If you've been watching the news, the, budget, veto session for the governor hit a deadline, I believe it was Monday. People were wondering if he was gonna veto the entire budget. He did not do that, but he did recommend about over 200 amendments to the budget. So now the General Assembly has to come back and work through those with the governor to get a final budget, so we're waiting to see. He did say in his comments that the 3% for teacher increases would stay in the budget. I don't know what else will stay in and what our final number will be, so we're still on hold for that. But he did mention that in his comments on Monday, I believe it was, that was gonna stay in, but there's still a lot to negotiate there between the governor and the General Assembly. So that's the update. Once we get those numbers, the Finance Committee can come back and look at that. There's other work the Finance Committee has to do, not just the budget, but going into next year and looking at detailed lines and some other things, but we'll wait for that.
All right, Mr. Knight, comments and concerns from school board members?
No additional comments.
Mr. Holbrook?
No, I'd just like to apologize for having to leave the meeting last time, because I was about to cough myself to death, so. Other than that, no.
Mr.
Comments, sir?
All right, Ms. Purvis?
So I wanted to just thank Mr. Huddleston for being here and making his presentation. And I want to draw your attention to a couple things. First of all, I want to read Virginia Law 22.1-2.1, and I've given you all copies of it. It passed in 2022 to address the severe loss of learning due to the study and effects of electronic devices on students. And obviously, after his presentation, it has definitely done some major damage to our kids. As used in this section, in-person instruction means instructional interaction between teacher and student that occurs in person and in real time. In-person instruction does not include the act of proctoring remote online learning in a classroom. So, except as otherwise permitted in subdivision, it's got all that written out there, you'll see that. Each school board shall offer in-person instruction to each student enrolled in the local school division in a public elementary and secondary school for at least a minimum number of required annual instructional hours, and to each student enrolled in the local school division in the public school-based early childhood care, and education program for the entirety of the instructional time provided pursuant to such program. In other words, since in-person instruction does not include the act of proctoring remote online learning through a computer or through a Chromebook, and we are required to have a minimum number of required instructional hours, we need to make sure that we're using our technology sparingly and only for supplemental purposes as opposed to daily work. Given that much of our curriculum is online and there is no student book available, this puts us in a precarious position. My brother, who teaches in an exemplary Vail Public School District in Tucson, Arizona area, was on the cutting edge of technology when it was all the rage in the early 1910s. Unfortunately, they saw a significant drop in test scores, and they decided to remove most of their technology from their classrooms, and immediately they saw their test scores improve dramatically. This all happened before the school closings and the remote learning that we experienced in 2020 and 2021. So they already figured this out, that this was a problem. As we know, we at Bedford County Public Schools are privileged to offer the use of technology through Chromebooks, smart boards, and various other devices. However, with this privilege comes a great responsibility. As a teacher, I found the technology portion of my curriculum when I was teaching very helpful. However, I was constantly trying to keep the students on task while they had their Chromebooks open. Many would be on other websites, playing video games, or chatting with their friends online during their Chromebook time. It was a constant battle for their attention. During the lockdowns, we clearly saw a huge decline in actual learning while students were doing their homework online their work online rather than in the classroom instruction. And so there was a problem that we all saw as a nation. And finally, I'd like to tell you a story of my husband's experience with technology and health issues. My husband worked as a consultant in the Silicon Valley in California. After over 30 years of staying up late on his computer or cell phone and not being able to fall asleep soundly, my husband would often wake up feeling exhausted and fatigued. Eventually, he was unable to function normally and ended up with depression and anxiety, which later led to inability to cope with stress. We sincerely believe that the constant exposure of the EMFs and the inability to deal with stress properly resulted in brain cancer that nearly took his life. We discovered that the blue light toxicity was a major part of the problem. In order to cure himself of this, he made it a point to stop using his phone or computer at least 1.5 hours before bedtime. He got up before 10 a.m. and spent at least 20 minutes outside, making sure he got full sunlight on his eyes. And obviously not looking straight at the sun, but just good morning sun. This corrected his circadian rhythm, and he was finally able to sleep by 10 o'clock and also sleep through the night. It made a big difference. Later, he discovered that if you get up before sunrise and actually get natural light just before and after sunrise, it will detoxify the blue light damage that we get throughout the day. This increased his strength and stamina and cured him of his mental health and fatigue. And today he's an avid hiker and often hikes in our beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains for miles and miles. 13 miles up in those mountains. I don't know how he does it, but anyway, sometimes not even on a trail. Given the fact that many students stay up at night on their Chromebooks, on their phones, or playing video games, it is no surprise that we're having such a huge mental health crisis in our schools. Developing brains need fresh air. They need exercise, and they need natural sunlight. So I want to recommend a few things. I recommend that teachers avoid giving lengthy Chromebook homework assignments, that we limit Chromebook use during the class periods to less than 20 minutes per class period, and then open blinds whenever possible to allow full sunlight into the classrooms. Again, many times these kids go to school in the dark and they go home in the dark in the winter. And they don't ever really have full sunlight, and a lot of the teachers keep their blinds closed the whole day. It's ridiculous. They need sunlight. I would also like to invite the Policies Committee to look into the school policies regarding digital devices more carefully, and for the administrators to help our teachers to implement more projects, worksheets, books, or discussion-based learning that does not require heavy computer work. We want to use technology in a safe way that facilitates excellent academics without endangering the health and well-being of our students. We should probably find that if we start implementing these things, that we will have less emotional instability in our children and less problems with behavior. We cannot control everything the students do at home. However, we can control what we do during the day, and we can also do a campaign to try to make parents more aware of the seriousness of this issue. So if you're a parent, please do your part in helping your child get a good night's rest, free from the disastrous effects of the blue light toxicity. Thank you.
Dr. Hubo? No comments.
Okay. Mr. Daniels?
All right. I want to thank everybody who came out and spoke tonight. Definitely a lot of concern from Otter River, and I totally understand that. I had several emails from them. I tried to answer it. as best I could, giving them just kind of the breakdown of kind of just where we're at with things. So, Dr. Woodford, prior to COVID, the staffing standards for counselors and were what they are now, correct?
They actually changed a little bit last year. I think Dr. Calvert may be able to address that a little bit better. At the time, before COVID, we had I think a 0.6, which is about 3 days a week at Otter River, and we had a halftime at Big Island. And then last year, we adjusted the staffing standards in the budget.
We adjusted, it used to state that it was halftime at student enrollment of less than 250. And it was changed since COVID to 200.
Okay.
So we have actually made the standard better, and the standard is considerably better than the SOQ.
Right, okay, and so the reason why it went up to a full-time was during COVID, there were ESSER funds, and it was there to help transition kids that were having issues during COVID. Okay.
Yes.
So I have this other information I think it's important for everybody to know. We have to meet or exceed the standards of quality. The standard of quality for school counselors in Virginia is 1 full-time equivalent for every 325 students in kindergarten through 12. The American School Counselors Association advocates for 250 to 1. We are at 200. Okay. And then if it's less than that, it's a halftime. Okay. And I'm sure it doesn't, the people that need it, that need the counselor, it's absolutely wonderful. I think the people that spoke tonight said it very well. You don't know when your child's gonna have an issue. And teachers may not be equipped to handle that issue. If there's that situation in the school, what is the protocol for our kids that need the help and our teachers that are like, I don't know what to do? Do they have the ability to pick up the phone and we can get someone? How do we do that? I want to make sure that's addressed.
So we would call a counselor to go over, or a school psychologist to go to the school. We would find someone and send them over.
Okay.
Which we've had to do in the past when we've had halftime counselors. We have actually, a lot of times our school psychologists would go over to do threat assessments, risk assessments.
Yeah.
So we would definitely call someone over.
Okay. And yes, Otter Rivers, they said 170, I've said 165. I know it's around there. But just to be clear, I think it's important to understand when it's over 200 kids, they still get one counselor. So at Bedford Elementary, there's one counselor, 453 kids. New London, one counselor, 300. Forest Elementary, 373. At Goodview, 450. And at TJ Elementary, one counselor, 516 students. So if we wanted to make changes to that and add it, and let's use the Otter River number 165 and divide into there, by my count, we would need 12.67 more counselors. And I'm not saying it's always about numbers, but when we have decisions to be made and decisions not to be made, there's consequences to all of that. We were presented options a couple of months ago or a month ago, and we heard loud and clear from the community that they didn't want that. We heard about zone transfers and moving things around last year. They did not want that. There's consequences to what we do. There's consequences to what we don't do. So I think that that's something that we all need to consider. Zone transfers were also brought up again tonight. We heard from Otter River families last year that we had some classroom sizes that were too big, and we didn't want that. So one of the ways to fix that was if you were zoned for Otter River, you could go. If you weren't, you couldn't. So that solved that problem, but then again, maybe it creates another one. Sometimes you can't see that far, you're just trying to solve the problem. So one of the things, so I appreciate, parents speaking out tonight. I think it's important and we need to hear from them. That's why we're going to be continuing to do town halls. But it's also important to lay out the facts of what's kind of going on. And I think it's important, again, as we did in town halls, as we've done, is to make sure we keep talking to people about what we're up against. These are the problems, and we're trying to come up with solutions. It's important for parents to also be able to come up with solutions for us. Saying, hey, just tell the Board of Supervisors to raise taxes, you're obligating all the taxpayers of Bedford County to try to solve the issue that you have. I'm not saying you can write a check, you could, is it gonna cover what we need? Probably not. So anyway, that's that. With the zone transfers, I would, because we are not moving forward with any of the 4 options that we discussed previously, I would like to ask the facility committee, maybe to look at doing a study, maybe look at the line between where New London Academy is and Otter River. Otter River's a small school, they've got room to put kids. New London's getting real tight. I think that if we looked at maybe moving some kids there, but keeping them in their same feeder pattern, they would still go to the JF through the JF feeder pattern. I think that may be something that we can do. So maybe you guys can look at the positives and negatives on that, and it's maybe something that we could consider. If it gets that number to over 200, you get a full-time counselor there. But and maybe solve some of the other maybe larger classroom sizes. So it's just a thought. So I just want to throw that out there. But that's it on my comments.
Can I just say, if you do that transfer, then we should probably think about adding more to Big Island as well, somehow shifting that so that they can still have a full-time counselor.
There's a lot of other reasons probably that we need to look at New London and that, but I would leave that up to the facility committee to give us some options for us to look at. Again, I will tell you that anytime we talk about moving that line, and if we have town halls, we're gonna have people that are gonna be like, hey, we're upset with this. So, just be prepared for that. But again, information is power and facts are our friends. We need to make sure we get this information out and say, this is why we're looking at this.
All right, well, I attended Teacher of the Year event. Ms. Borak, I just want to say thank you to you. It was one of the best Teacher of the Year events that I've attended since I've been on the board. So thank you for making those changes, and I thought it was a great event, so thank you for that. Also today was the BCPS Little Feet Meet. If you have not attended one of those, highly recommend next year you get out to participate and experience that. My third comment, the staff is probably gonna be like, Lord, here we go. We heard tonight from Dr. Avey, reading at early ages and how important it is. I know we talked about this on the finance committee, and Dr. Woodford, Dr. Calvert, Mr. Hagler, you may already have these numbers. But I had posed the question of what would it look like if we were to decrease our classroom sizes in K through 3 to allow to get that reading and where we need it to be. And I don't know if you have those numbers right on offhand or have it documented, but if not, I'd really like to look into that. And again, I know it's a budget issue, but if we can drive success at the beginning and it continues afterwards, to me, it's a great investment. So one of my questions, there's 2 questions. One would be, how much would it cost for us to do K through 3? And we had looked at it at a 15 and an 18. And what would that drive from a budget standpoint? And then the second thing is the amount of FTE that would be required to fulfill that.
I'm
And do we-
remembering, Randy's looking it up
I'm
and
looking
trying
it
to do it, but I thought it was 20 and 50 teachers. I'm guessing,
I wanna say
let's
20
go
and
back to
50
it.
is what we-
So I'm interested to know, what would it cost? And then, and again, we would have to have consensus of the board if that's even something we would want to understand, and we would need those numbers. But again, if we can get success in K through 3,
18 and 50.
it helps us build from that point forward. But if we have consensus from the board, once we understand the amount, I'm gonna challenge not only the team to come back with options. The other options that we presented was not what the community wanted. But we have got to figure out how we can drive success for Bedford to be the best of the best. We cannot continue to do what we're doing. I want to be not state standard, I want to be above state standard. And so I'm not gonna say that we can afford to do what it would cost, but I think it behooves us as a team for you guys, but also for me to challenge this board of where can we cut in order to fulfill success for our students at a K through 3 level. It's not gonna be easy. It won't be easy conversations, and I'm not saying it has to happen overnight, but I wanna challenge, how do we get there? And make sure that we are creating success in all 3 zones, K through 3, period. And maybe 15 is the wrong number, maybe 18 is the wrong number, I don't know. But, you know, any insight that you guys can come back and give that, I would appreciate it. So Randy, I'm not putting you on the spot, you don't have to come up with it right now.
Hurry up.
He's close,
I think I remember
he's
it.
close, he's over
I
there, he's
remember
close.
like 20 or 22.
Yeah, if you went to 18 to 1, it would be 20 positions, roughly,
So
all in
77,
77,000 per.
1.5, something like that.
So if you went to 18, it's about 1.5 million
Million.
for 20.
And what if we went to 15?
Oh, okay, give me a second.
I think it was 50 teachers, I'm pretty sure. it
It's
was
probably
there.
about 50.
I think it was 50.
Hold on.
But we would have the room for that.
3.85 million.
3.85.
Could we find the teachers?
3.85.
The teachers would have the room for them, yeah.
That's why I asked the question, can we even find the FTE to make it happen?
50 teachers in
K3.
Well, and that's looking at decreasing an entire class, so you get a new teacher and that class stays together all day long. What if you just created small reading groups, you know, and not restructure the entire day?
Like a resource.
Because if you're instigating, the kids are loving reading and they become self-motivated because of that, it carries over into all the other stuff, everything else, you know, it covers their math, it covers their social studies, everything.
And we already have
Small groups.
small
We
groups.
break into small groups
And do we do it for everybody?
we definitely do it for our tier 2 and tier 3 readers who are struggling. So we have our reading specialists pushing in and extra support pushing in. It just depends on the reading levels, what's needed in each class.
Just throwing it out there. I'm looking for what drives us to be the best.
So when it's reading time in the classroom, let's say I have a first grade class and it's reading time, is there somebody who comes in and takes maybe some of my struggling readers or a reading specialist while I work with ones that are more?
So I don't wanna generalize because all schools are different and schools with Title I money have more resources, so they have people who push in some cases. Based on IEPs, we have special education teachers pushing in, so I don't wanna say blanketly that happens everywhere. So it really depends on the school schedule, their resources, and the needs of the students in the classroom. I would say you can have bodies of teachers, but if they have not been trained effectively in teaching reading, then that's what we need. We need teachers who are trained to teach primary reading and supporting them through professional development. And there's a lot coming out with the Virginia Literacy Act, talking about fidelity and integrity to a reading program, training for small groups, training for reading specialists. So we are in the midst of moving into that next year. So I think we will see if there's also dollars attached to that from the state. But it's definitely our focus. And again, I think effective teachers are well-trained teachers. And so that's been our focus.
I'd just like to say that during this conversation, maybe we could consider replacing the AR program with something else.
We don't use AR as a decision,
It's
as a
just
school level decision.
I mean, I've said this before, but I know from personal experience that my 10-year-old broke the record at Bonita and he didn't read any books.
We don't
I'll just
purchase
take
that
that for
at
what
the
it is.
division level.
He got all the parties and all the stuff, and he did not read those books, I guarantee.
Did you take his test for him?
No.
Just kidding.
I mean, I'm actually impressed. He's probably gonna be a millionaire one
great
day. He's
class
smart.
taker.
Yeah, he's very smart, but I'm just saying,
All All right. Well, I appreciate the discussion on that. You know, I challenge you guys to think about that. You know, what does it take for us to push in K through 3 to set the standard for the next grade levels? And staff, if you feel like that's not something we should focus on, certainly let us know that from a curriculum standpoint, from finance. But, you know, I want to make sure we're thinking, you know, what can we do to give them what they need?
Do we have something in place that will help train more reading specialists?
So the state is providing training and required training through the Virginia Literacy Act. Our reading specialists have already been through that science of reading training, and they will continue to receive that training. Currently, our division level reading, Dr. Bergen and myself, Dr. Trasper, we're receiving training. We are working to develop a literacy plan based on research for effective reading models. So that's kind of all in the works, and it's coming from the state. Yeah.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Holbrook, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Daniels. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned.